now tuned in to Brutally Uncut with me, your host, Tameeka Henry. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Brutally Uncut. This episode, I'll be speaking on things to consider, some pros, some cons, and even providing some tips on what you should be thinking about when you're deciding whether or not you want to start a family. This is a very important topic to a lot of people between the ages of, I would say, 27 to 35, mainly because a lot of us find ourselves in the corporate environment or just working the day-to-day job, earning money and living our lives, thinking about when are we going to settle down and have that family or when is a good time to do this. So I thought it was a very important topic that a lot of people could relate to. Most highly educated professionals, especially in today's world, are waiting until their 30s, to get into parenthood. And they find that most career-driven women especially will wait till their 30s and 40s to have their first child. The main reasoning behind that is by this age, most professionals, and especially women, accomplish most of their desires, are in a place to financially take care of themselves as well as another person, in this case a child. Or they might be with a partner, or they've just gotten married, and now they have that financial stability to consider inviting another mouth into the equation. And most women in their 30s have accumulated enough wealth and time in their professional lives. And I'll get into the professional aspect a little bit later in the conversation. But one of the main points that we want to talk about is how late is too late. I think that's the main question for everyone. If we look back at our grandmothers, or we look back at our great-grandmothers, or even some of us for our parents, they had their first child between the ages of 22 and 27, 28. I know my mom, she had me at the age of 28. Could I see myself having a kid at the age of 28? No. My reality is a lot different than my mom's reality was at the age of 28. So there's a lot of things that I'm doing right now in my life that weren't necessarily a factor in my mom's life. Like, I have so many things that I'm juggling right now outside of my professional careers, a lot of things that I do on the side and entertainment. So I just don't think that including a child into the equation would even be fair. It's not that I wouldn't be able to take care of a child right now in my life. I just don't think it would be a wise decision with everything that I have going on. Timing is everything. You really do have to consider time, especially if you are in that tender age and you have that biological clock ticking against you. With all the health improvements and the health technology, there are a lot of options. Still have to consider what is right for you, because all of those options you might not be the perfect candidate for. You want to really think about, what are the health risks associated with waiting. So how late is too late? I would say the response is it depends. It depends on the person. It depends on what's going on in your life. Then again, I don't even want to say, I was going to say you can't even wait till you're 50. You don't want to wait till you're 50 or 60 for various reasons. But with today's technology, anything is possible. So, I don't even want to put that out there. But what are the determining factors when you're deciding how late is too late? And some of the things that come to mind for me, as I briefly touched on in my opening statement, is money, personal accomplishment, just living life, fear, just not knowing how to handle the situation, what is to come, who are you going to be raising this child with, is there going to be a person, are you going to adopt, do you have the support, the family support, the friend support, just loved ones supporting you if you do need help, and health. Health, I think, is the biggest factor when it comes to anyone outside of the professional aspect. I would say that health is the number one, and two is professional circumstances. And finance as well, too. I would keep that in the top three, and those top threes, how you prioritize them can differ depending on the person. And, just to jump right into some of the health risks associated with choosing to wait, and as I mentioned before, there are a lot of options for women out there who do want to wait and who do want to delay starting families, such as freezing eggs and having someone carry for you. You can even adopt. You can have a friend have a child for you on your behalf. They may want to carry a child that, is not biologically yours, but they want to do a favor for you while you pay for the process. So there are a lot of options that have been made available to women and to couples that can reproduce the natural way. Think about what makes sense for you and your partner, what makes sense for you if you're deciding to go the solo route. Some of the most common health risks associated with the process of waiting is high blood pressure, gestational diabetes, complications with pregnancy. If you have a number in mind, how many kids you want to have, whether it be 4, whether it be 3, or whether it be 2, if it's more than 1, I would say consider those different risks, because if you are a candidate for one of those risks, depending on how severe your situation is, this can affect the number of kids that you have. This can affect your fertilization process, period. The fertility in women begins to decline after the age of 30. In vitro, a lot of people like to run to it and say we can just do this. It's not 100%. Everyone is not a candidate for it. Some people have complications with it. It can be very stressful on your body. Just having your child at a later age and later in life, dealing with the pregnancy for 9 months, you're not in the same shape that you were in when you were 22 or when you were 25. So that's a big factor in deciding to wait and deciding whether or not to have it at an early age. When should you start considering your options? I would say as soon as it crosses your brain. I don't think you should have to wait until you have a partner or wait until you guys are ready to have a child. I think it's a conversation that should happen at the beginning of the relationship, and I think it should be an open conversation. If you know someone who is having a child and they had their child a little bit later in life, whether it be 35, 40, or 30, or even 22, ask them what the process was like. Everyone's situation is different, so don't use their experience as a Bible for you, but use it more as a guide to say, okay, this is a possibility, or this might happen. But every person's situation is different, so just take it with a grain of salt and do the best that you can for you. Another thing you need to consider is, do you have a mate? Are you dating? Are you currently dating someone? Is that person, can you see yourself building a future with this person? Or is this person just someone who's going to stick around for the time being? Those are things to consider. You might find yourself in an unexpected situation. What would you do if there was an unexpected pregnancy? Are you going to keep the child? Those are things that you have to really think to yourself, like, if I was stuck in this situation, or if this happened to me today, what would I do? Or if we're not able to produce naturally, are you open to adopting, or are you open to someone else having the kid? Those are things that I think should be open conversations that you have with your mate and with your family to see what's the best option for you. The big question right now in the delay of people just waiting to have children is, what's the wait for? With the health and everything, most people who are healthy or who are in a good place financially, or feel like they've accomplished enough, or they feel like they can still accomplish those things with a child or with their family, starting a new family. Why are they waiting? I would say some of the main things is enjoying life, just plainly enjoying life, lack of options in a dating partner and dating and having someone to spend the rest of your life with if you do want to, do the couple route. According to an article that I was reading on Business Insider, stating that when a country does not enable women to combine work and family well and has strong motherhood penalties, the trend is going to be exacerbated by that. And I think that's very important. And she continues by saying that if a woman has to choose between pursuing her career and starting a family rather than doing both at the same time, putting off having children becomes more likely, and the choice is less trying in other countries with better child care systems and more generous maternity and paternity leaves. I think that's one of the main factors for a lot of women, and it kind of surprises women that the programs that we have instilled in this country that don't support them having children and still living their professional lives, which is why a lot of women wait till they reach a certain point where they're happy in their professional lives. So if they do leave, there is a possibility that they will have a job to come back to, or they've accumulated enough financial funds that if a position wasn't immediately available, that they still be able to survive and support their family. So those are things to look into as well. We're not where we want to be as a country when it comes to supporting motherhood in the workplace or fatherhood sometimes if you are a single dad and need to leave for those appointments, or you're taking on both roles, or you need to leave because you want to be on paternity leave. Not all jobs support that, but some jobs that are very progressive do. I recently attended an event held by the New York Wiki, which is the New York Women in Communications group, and there was a panelist of women who spoke about this very experience is shifting back into the workplace after taking time off to have a family. And, some of the key takeaways that I received while listening to the panel was a lot of women struggle with the process of returning back to the workplace because they don't ask for help. They go back into work and they act like they're just like the other employees. And though you shouldn't feel like an outsider, you should also understand that your life is very different now. You're not like, you're a little bit later in your career, you might be 30, 35, or whatever the case may be, and you're coming back to work with a bunch of 21, 22, 23-year-olds who might not be as understanding to your situation as you would like them to be because they're not in the same situation as you. But speak to your boss. Find out what your options are. Are they okay with you leaving early? Are they okay with you having a flexible schedule? And you also have to consider, if you're asking for these types of flexibilities within the workplace, make sure that you're delivering, because employees are more lenient to their star workers. They're not going to be flexible with someone who isn't performing, who isn't giving 110%. So make sure you're giving your best if you're going to ask for this type of flexibility. Sometimes this maternity leave can also be a new stepping stone for you. This might be the opportunity for you to switch careers. Maybe you realize that what you were doing before wasn't making you happy, or maybe it's not conducive to your new family life. You want to be able to spend more time with your kids, and the career that you previously chose doesn't allow you to do that. So you might be able to still work in finance, and finance is your area of expertise, but in a way that allows you to come home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon so that you can meet your kids when they come home from school and help them with their homework and cook dinner. Those are things that you might enjoy or might long for doing. Those are things that you need to consider when you're leaving the workplace to start this new family life. And how long do you expect to wait if you are in a situation of waiting? For me personally, I expect to wait as long as I need to wait. I don't feel as rushed to do it. I don't want to have to think about when I want to take my next vacation, who's going to watch my kids, or can I afford to take the kids with me, or, if I want to go out and do something. I feel like there's still a lot more that I need to accomplish professionally and personally. There's a lot more paper I need to stack. So there's a lot of places in the world that I want to see, and not to say that I can't do those things with children or, having a spouse and children in my life. But right now, I would prefer to do those things by myself, with friends, or with a partner, as opposed to thinking about children, because I could experience those things, but it does become a little bit more challenging when kids are involved. I mean, kids are in school, so your schedule has to change a little bit. You can only go on vacation during the summer times or spring breaks or when they have vacation, unless you have someone who is responsible enough to watch them. So I just don't want that headache right now. I know for some people it might be a little bit different, but for me, I would say wait until you're ready. Make sure that you are 100% ready and you're not forcing it, trying to accommodate what other people feel is the best time for you, because, again, everyone's situation is different. And just some tips that I want to run into that you should consider, and things that, should be at the top of mind when you're thinking about starting a family is, I know a lot of people feel like it's the end of the world, but life does not stop when you have kids. For some people, it does slow down quite a bit, but I don't think it's the end of the world. But one thing is for certain, that it does change. While you were able to be selfish and think about yourself first, or, just have to think about you and your partner, now you have someone else's life that comes before your own. I would hope that you will consider your child's needs before your own. I mean, that's not always the case with everybody's situation, but, you still want to keep a stable frame of mind and be able to take care of yourself, but ultimately, it's your kids that's at the top of mind, and kids that have to be taken care of before anything. So those are things that you have to consider before doing anything. But life does change more dramatically for some than others. So that's something to consider. Again, as I said before, check with your employer to to see what they offer, especially when you're seeking a new job as far as maternity and paternity leave. You don't want to be raising a child alone if there is another partner in the situation. If you are a same-sex couple, do they offer maternity leave for the other partner? Does your employer respect those type of relationships and will provide you with that time to be with your partner during that time of need? Again, working from home and having a flexible schedule as far as doctor's appointments, leaving early for a play, or being able to see your kid hit their first ball at the baseball game. Those are things you want to consider when speaking to your employer. So those are tips for people who are switching jobs or people who are looking to come back to a position. Is there a contract that needs to be signed? Is there a conversation that you need to have with your employer before you take that time off? Have you invested enough time in the company that would allow you to take that time off? Are you going to get paid the whole time? Do they give you 3 months? Do they give you 4 months? Different strokes, different employers. So you have to consider those things when you're deciding to take time off to start a family. Stars don't always align the way we want them to, no matter how you want to plan or how you think things will be. Things happen. You might go into a situation saying, I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to take time off, I'm going to go back to work and everything's going to be peachy clean. But through your process, you might find that you do have gestational diabetes now, or you have developed high blood pressure, or your partner that was once there that said that they would be there throughout the process is now leaving because they can't handle the extra responsibility that is now in place. So those are things that you really want to say to yourself, is this possible? How would my life change if these things happen to me? Travel far and travel often. I want to see the world. I want to experience the world in every aspect before I include another individual into my life as far as a child goes, because I want my child to have the greatest life, and I want to be able to teach them things outside of what they learn in school and outside of what they learn from their friends and their peers. Like, I want to be able to share my experiences with my kids and then share those experiences again with them physically and have them go on those same trips. But I'd like to do that solo first. Make sure it's really what you want to do, as I said before, and make sure it's your decision and not the decision of others. If there is a mistake, you deal with it accordingly. And if you decide to move forward with your pregnancy or, having that child, make sure it's something that you want to do and you're not being forced into a situation that you're not prepared for. Spend time with your spouse and spend time with your partner before you include another person into the picture. Please appreciate the time that you guys do have together, because having a child for some people, especially in relationships that are not prepared, it can put a strain on your love life, because that time that you used to spend with your partner walking in the park or staying up late, now you have to include a child into that equation. And now the times that you used to stay up and watch Netflix, now you staying up and helping your child with homework. Sometimes you might not feel like you have alone time just to be romantic with your partner. And sometimes that romantic aspect of your relationship takes a back seat to taking care of the child. And respectfully so, those things happen, and your priorities change. So be prepared for that. Give yourself a timeline if this is something that's very important to you. Things might not always align the way you want them to, but at least you have a plan in place just in case something does happen and you're not blindsided by any of the unexpected situations, and you're prepared for them even though everyone's situation is different. Have something in place. Let it run through your mind a couple of times if this is something that you're considering short-term rather than long-term. Again, think about your options. Sometimes people tend to forget this, and we think that everyone can just naturally have a child. Some women find out during the process that they have fertility issues. Some guys find out that they have fertility issues. Speak with your partner. Are they open to adopting? Are they open to a friend carrying the child for you? Maybe a family member. Are you open to invasive surgeries to help you produce and create the family that you want to create? How far are you willing to go to create your family, and what options make sense for your relationship? One of the key things that I want to stress to women and to men: find someone that you can see yourself spending the rest of your life with. And I'm not even saying romantically, or I'm not even saying getting married. I'm saying that if you have a child with this person and you expect your child to be this person's life, make sure it's a person that you can see yourself spending the rest of your life with, because ultimately that's what's going to happen between the ages of birth to 21. And then even after that, if you guys are alive, because even if you are not together romantically and you move on, you still have a connection, which is your child. And although you may not speak to each other because you're not together, there still will be some kind of communication when it comes to the child's life events, such as graduation, such as their first game, such as, any monumental times in their life. So just make sure it's someone that you can at least be cordial with and that you respect. You want to make sure that this person is a respectable, stand-up person, that if something was supposed to happen to you, God forbid, and no one in your family was able to step up and take care of your child, you will feel comfortable closing your eyes and saying, my child will be fine. Make sure that's the person that you want to start a family with. Get into a place where you feel financially comfortable and professionally satisfied. The worst thing for anyone, I think, is having guilt or feeling some type of way, saying that I wish I would have waited. I could have been this place in my life, or I could have done this if I would have waited to have a child. Some women and some men, they use those situations to push them to be even more successful. So don't always look at it as a burden. Sometimes it's a motivator to want to be better, because now you're not only being better for yourself, you're being better for your child because you want to set an example. But just make sure before you have to plan sometimes and be financially stable and professionally satisfied, so that if you're in that situation when you do plan to have a child, you're comfortable and you're saying, if my child gets sick, I'm prepared for that. Clears your head as a little bit of peace of mind. Waiting to have a child, I think, something you have to consider is you might have less energy. If you're not an active person or a person that likes to get up and get around, you're not the same person at 22 that you are at 40. You're not the same person at 22 that you are at 30. So just make sure that if you are waiting, you're dealing with a rambunctious, vivacious child that likes to run around, scream. Even the good ones sometimes throw tantrums. So be in the gym, running, eating your Wheaties, because you got to have enough energy for the ones who like to stay up at night crying, the ones that don't like to listen, the ones that like to do backflips and see if they can land on you or do a wrestling move on you when you least expect it. So make sure you're conserving your energy. Keep in mind also, when it comes to family, that as you get older, so does everyone else around you, including your parents. Make sure that, if there is family around you and people that are fortunate enough to have their parents around, that they're old enough to experience this time with you, with having children and being able to enjoy their grandchildren. Don't wait to a point where you no longer have your parents, if you are blessed to currently have them in your life, for you to say, okay, now it's time, and then saying, I wish that you would have been able to meet your grandmother or met your grandfather, but I didn't have time to do this, or I wasn't prepared, or I wasn't at a point in my life that I felt like I could have children, so I waited, but I felt like I waited a little bit too long. You want to have kids, you got to really think about what you want to do and when you want to have them, because you're against the clock, especially as a woman. Your biological clock ticks after a certain time, as I said, after the age of 22. Out to decline a little bit. So you want to make sure that you're considering those different factors and that you're thinking of all the aspects of your life. Now you're a mom, now you're a dad, you're responsible for someone else's life. So make sure that, if you are waiting to start your family, that you're planning accordingly. And for those that do have children that weren't able to wait, or those that decided to have children early, kudos to you. You are a superwoman and superman, because I could not do it. I honestly couldn't do it. I could barely keep track of my schedule now. I probably forget to feed the child. I definitely salute them that are taking care of their children and taking care of their responsibilities. Thank you for listening, and definitely stay connected on my social media. Visit my site. Check me out on Instagram at Tameeka_Henry, the website TameekaHenry.com, BrutallyUncut.com, SoundCloud.com, and look out for the next episode. Thank you so much.
You're now tuned in to Brutally Uncut with me, your host, Tameeka Henry.